Welcome to our community church, Unitarian Universalist. I'm your worship associate today, Amy Holtkamp, and it is a joy to be with you both in person and virtually today. So who are we as community church? We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements, but I'd also like to invite our board president, Laura Miller, up with an announcement for you all today.
Hi, y'all. This is quick and short, and I'm hoping that our meeting next week will also be quick, short, and efficient. And that's all I wanted to remind folks of. We're having our congregational meeting next Sunday, December 4th, immediately following the service, and then we'll have coffee hour after that. So, thank you. Hope to see you then.
Thank you, Laura. So our speaker today, Jim O'Neill, is no stranger to most of you, but for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, Dr. Jim O'Neill is a licensed professional counselor and has been for over 40 years, and he's a member of Community Church. Dr. O'Neill was executive director of a pastoral counseling center and an adjunct faculty member of Loyola's Institute for Ministry. Jim has served several congregations as either a pastoral associate or worship associate, and we're so happy to have him here today to share his sermon, Mother Earth Heals. I'm sorry, if I seem distracted, I have the best seat in the house because I can see this darling little one in the back with her flag, like Gavroche on the barricades in Les Miserables, and it's just the most adorable thing. Before proceeding with the service, we'd like to take this time to acknowledge and pay tribute to the original inhabitants of this land. The city of New Orleans is a continuation of an indigenous trade hub on the Mississippi River known for thousands of years as Bobancha. The Choctaw, Halma, Chitimacha, Biloxi, and other native peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and the resilient voices of Native Americans remain an inseparable part of our local culture. With gratitude and honor, we acknowledge the indigenous nations that have lived and continue to thrive here. And now Jim with some opening words.
Good morning. Beautiful day, delight to be here. Our opening words are from 4:17. For the beauty of the earth, this spinning blue-green ball, yes, Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together again in this place, to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live, welcome us. This morning, for our Chalice Lighting, it is our custom as Community Church to light the chalice, inviting that flame to affirm the light of truth, acknowledge the warmth of love and community, and the fire of hope and commitment. But today also, we light another candle for our Advent wreath. People throughout time have waited for the coming of the sun, S-U-N, its solstice with the promise of warmer days. As we notice it getting darker earlier, and we go more deeply into deep, dark December, we long for the return and the coming of light. And the Advent waiting is a waiting period. The candle symbolic of waiting for, first of all, this week's candle, love. The love that conquers fear. Next week candle, the light of hope in the face of all the events that might bring despair. The third candle, the pink candle, is for joy, the joy that we can carry in the midst of life's sorrows and challenges. And the fourth candle, for the last Sunday of Advent, is for the candle of peace, which is more than a state of inner tranquility. It's a state of wholeness and completeness. Peace is being in right relationship or harmony with each other and with creation. In waiting for the light, we remember we are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones who will bring these lights into our world. With that, we will light these candles and sing our hymn. We now welcome Cynthia Ramirez for our Time for All Ages.
Man, he's tall. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, she's waving. Yay! Na, na, na. I'm sorry, got distracted. So this, he always does really good sermons, and this one is near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to, we'll be talking, the kids and I will be talking about endangered species and what does that mean and how can we help, okay? But this is from Eckhart Tolle, from his book, Stillness Speaks. We depend upon nature not only for our physical survival, we also need nature to show us the way home, the way out of prison of our own minds. We got lost in doing, thinking, remembering, anticipating, lost in a maze of complexity in a world of problems. We have forgotten that rocks, plants, animals still know. We have forgotten how to be still, to be ourselves, to be where life is, here and now. Whenever you bring your attention to anything natural, everything has to come into existence without human intervention. You step out of the prison of conceptualizing thinking and to some extent participate in a state of connectedness with being in which everything natural still exists. To bring your attention to a stone, a tree, an animal does not mean to think about it, but simply to perceive it, to hold it in your awareness. Something of its existence then transmits itself to you. You can sense how still it is, and in doing the same, stillness arises within you. You sense how deeply it rests in being, completely at one with what it is and where it is. In realizing this, you too come to a place of rest deep within yourself. When walking and resting in nature, honor that realm by being there fully. Be still. Look. Listen. See how every animal and every plant is completely itself. Unlike humans, they have not split themselves in two. They do not live through mental images of themselves, so they do not need to be concerned with trying to protect and enhance those images. The deer itself, the deer is itself, and the daffodil is itself. All things in nature not only one with themselves, but also one with totality. They haven't removed themselves from the fabric of the whole, of claiming a separate existence, me and the rest of the universe. The contemplation of nature can free you of that me, that great troublemaker. Being awareness to many subtle sounds of nature, the rustling of the leaves in the wind, raindrops falling, the humming of an insect, the first bird songs at dawn. Give yourself completely to the act of listening. Beyond the sounds, there is something greater, a sacredness that cannot be understood through thought. You didn't create your body, nor are you able to control the body's functions. An intelligence greater than the human mind is at work. It is the same intelligence that sustains all of nature. You cannot get it any closer to the intelligence than by being aware of your own inner energy field, by feeling the aliveness, the animating presence within your body. The air that you breathe is nature, as it is the breathing process itself. Nature can bring you to stillness. That is a gift to you. When you perceive and join with nature in the field of stillness, that field becomes permeated with your awareness. That is your gift to nature. Through you, nature becomes aware of itself. Nature has been waiting for you, as it were, for millions of years. Thank you. And please join with me in singing the children out for Artie. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Cynthia, for that wonderful reading. So for today's readings for us, they're both from this book called The Nature Fix: Why Nature Makes Us Happier, Healthier, and More Creative, by Florence Williams. I'll begin the first reading with Florence, the journalist, telling us a little bit about her own story that led her to do this in-depth research throughout the world, actually. You see, what happened is they lived in Boulder, Colorado, and her husband's job took them to Washington, D.C. It wasn't long before, in Washington, D.C., she began to realize what a loss it was for her not to be in nature. This is what she wrote. I yearned for the mountains. And yearning is a devastating thing because it's defined by loss. As the months ticked by, I realized that if I was going to explore what nature offers our brains. I also had to acknowledge that its absence means what its absence means. I felt disoriented, overwhelmed, and depressed. My mind had trouble focusing. I couldn't finish thoughts. I couldn't make decisions. And I wasn't keen to get out of bed. I was perhaps, at least in part, suffering from what journalist Louvre calls nature deficit disorder. The DSM hasn't added it yet, presumably they will, and try to treat it with a pill. Louvre defines it as what happens when people, particularly children, spend little or no time outside in natural environments, resulting in a physical and mental problems, including anxiety and distraction. He also coined the toothsome term, nature neurons, to highlight the essential link between our nervous systems and the natural world they evolved in. Was the breakage of this link really happening? Is there science supporting the notion of nature deficit disorder? If so, how much nature do we need to fix ourselves? That's the question I will address a little bit later. Please join now in the responsive reading led by Amy. It's 5:51.
This is entitled Earth Teach Me from the Indians of North America. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light.
Earth, teach me suffering as all souls suffer with memory.
Earth, teach me caring as parents who secure their young.
Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands all alone.
Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground.
Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky.
Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall.
Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring.
Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life.
Earth, teach me to remember kindness as I feel fleeting bravery.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you didn't get a chance to fill out a note card before the service, we have some available for you. And if you prefer to come up to the pulpit after our musical interlude, that would be great as well. Thank you.
And sing hymn 174, hymn 174.
Thank
I'm starting off today with a joy from Rev Stacy, who wrote me to say, 10 CCUU members and friends contributed over 50 volunteer hours to prepare hot meals and a to-go meal for 150 people who are homeless, primarily living near Tremay and 7th Ward, for a total of about 300 meals with $450 of cash and in-kind donations from CCUU members. Food prepared included roasted vegetables, frittata, mac and cheese, fruit, fresh baked cookies, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and bottled water. May blessings, compassion, and kindness continue to flow within this congregation and outside these walls. And then a joy from Jada DeCloette. My family got a new pet, Miss Sammy, and we love her already. And from Jacqueline Locke, I am so happy to be home, though also glad I had the freedom to help my family in Illinois in their time of need. Welcome home, Jacqueline. We're so happy to have you back with us. Is there anyone else who has something to share? Please come up, Alan. Bert?
This might not make much sense to anybody new or relatively new, but for us users, it rings a bell. After so many years of poor health, this past week, Mary died. And that affects those of us who've been around more than 30, 40 years. But anyway, that's a story.
Well, that's a shock. I have a great joy, and that's that our friend Esther Posey is about to turn over her odometer to 3 figures on December the 13th. Actually, that doesn't land on a Sunday, so we're planning a party for her here 2 weeks from today, which will be the 11th. So please plan on being here. We're going to help her celebrate her 100th birthday, and it's going to be a good time being had for all. We'll have some cookie and cakes and finger food. I've been trying to figure out whether this food should be eaten with the fingers or you should eat your fingers separately. I think good help will be had by all, and Esther is certainly one of our biggest pieces of the soul of our group. So we're all looking forward to it.
We got to spend Thanksgiving with a very dear friend that we've been friends with for about 55 years. And all that time, we've done a lot of things with her, and it was just a really nice Thanksgiving with just the 3 of us plus one other couple at her summer house, I guess you'd say, in Waveland. But also, it was sort of bittersweet because she's going to be moving, and she's going to be moving to Phoenix to be with her family in her golden years, you know, as so many people do, and we're just going to be missing her. And so I'd like to light a candle for her. And I want to say that this church just offers so many opportunities for you to become involved with helping other people and in improving our community and improving our lives and so on. And I was just very grateful for the Social Justice Committee to present that opportunity of being able to help cook all those meals for all those people who don't get regular meals, the Feed the Homeless project. And that brought a lot of joy to make cookies, right? Yes. And peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That was fun. Okay.
My dad came to spend Thanksgiving with us, and that was a joy to have him with us with my family, but also he has started exhibiting early signs of memory loss, and so that's a sorrow that we're experiencing and going through with our family, and trying to work through all of that, and his, not wanting to accept that and trying to, figure that out. But I also want to second and third the experience yesterday of seeing everybody come out and do that. And when we hopefully do that again, we welcome anybody who wants to help, because it was really, it was a great experience to be able to help all these people. And we have several members over there today actually serving the meals. So our hearts are with them today too. So that's a big joy.
It's a joy to have our son Bill with us this week, particularly since he did most of the cooking for Thanksgiving.
Is there anyone else with anything to share today? Well, in that case, we will light 2 more candles, one for all of the joys that are just bubbling up, and one for the sorrows that are yet too painful to put words to. Know that we love you and hold you in our hearts.
Our second reading today is also taken from the Nature Fix. I mentioned to you that journalist Florence Williams traveled around the world, including Finland, Korea, Japan, Singapore, to gather all of this research about the impact that being in nature with Mother Earth has on us. And this particular reading tells you a little bit about just a snippet of what she's learned. For city dwellers, extensive reviews of the medical literature shows a 21% increase in anxiety disorders, a 39% increase in mood disorders, and a double risk of schizophrenia. Urban living is associated with increased activity in the brain's amygdala, the fear center, and also a key region for regulating fear and distress. Meanwhile, a study from Portugal found that people living near industrial gray space as opposed to green space reported decreased use of coping strategies and less optimism. That last bit is not trivial. Optimism is associated with healthier behaviors, lower triglycerides, and mental resilience. We could use some more resilience. Globally, depression is responsible for more healthy years lost than any other condition, according to the World Health Organization. She goes on. Now that I've learned about the ways in which being in nature changes our brain for the better, it was time to figure out how to bring the lessons back to where most of us live, in cities. Here are some of the essential take-homes. We all need nearby nature. We benefit cognitively and psychologically from having trees, bodies of water, and green spaces just to look at. We should be smarter about landscaping our schools, hospitals, workplaces, and neighborhoods so everyone gains. We need quick incursions to natural areas that engage our senses. Everyone needs access to clean, quiet, and safe natural refuges in a city. Short exposures to nature can make us less aggressive, more creative, more civic-minded, and healthier overall. For warding off depression, let's go with the Finnish recommendation of 5 hours a month in nature, minimum. But as the poets, neuroscientists, and river runners have shown us, we also at times need longer, deeper immersions into wild spaces to recover from severe distress, to imagine our futures, and to be our best civilized selves. Basically, we need hits from a full spectrum of doses of nature. Now, many of you know that over the 40 years of my practice as a licensed professional counselor, I've encountered lots of the pain that people suffer with. Since March 2020, for the safety of all in this pandemic, I've been treating patients virtually, primarily using Zoom, also FaceTime and phone. What I've noticed is how many people are reporting feeling fatigued, exhausted, stressed out, and are overwhelmed. This cluster of symptoms has been given a name: cumulative stress disorder. And it may be helpful to talk about it just for a moment here, so that as individuals in a community, we can support one another and develop strategies to either prevent or recover from CSD, or cumulative stress disorder. Now let me be clear from the get-go that stress is normal. It's the body's natural reaction in response to a physical or emotional challenge. Stress can be positive in activating a person's body, mind, and energy. It can be defined as an individual's capacity to mobilize every resource the body has to react promptly and adequately to any given situation. However, if the stress lasts too long, if it is constant without interruptions or relief, and if there's an accumulation of multiple stresses of a person's resources can be exhausted, and the person will develop harmful or negative forms of stress reaction. Cumulative stress results from an accumulation of various stressors. It can be heavy workload, poor communications, the frustration of not being able to meet the needs of yourself or your family, or having to cope with situations in which you feel powerless, lack basic comforts, or have the inability to rest or relax. Under normal circumstances, it can be monitored by adequate personal stress management. But in some stressful situations, such as disasters or a pandemic we have been in for so long, cumulative stress can escalate quickly and develop into exhaustion known as burnout. Now, there's a long list of the things that we can do to interrupt cumulative stress, such as healthy diet, good sleep habits, exercise, times of relaxation. The problem for most of us is that we take stress with us wherever we are and wherever we go. But a lot of recent research points to a very important key to interrupting stress and leading a healthier, happier, and more creative life. You just heard about the nature fix from journalist Florence Williams. From forest trails in Korea to islands in Finland to eucalyptus groves in California, Williams investigated the science behind nature's positive effects on us. Delving into the brand new research, she uncovered the powers of the natural world to improve health, promote reflection and innovation, and strengthen our relationships. I want to share with you some of my own experience of that, encourage you to try out nature therapy for yourself. The recommended dosage, most effective, is 5 hours a month of immersion in nature. In one of my earliest childhood memories, I was sitting in a mountain stream a few inches deep with my hands lifting and dropping smooth pebbles, while the sunlight flickered through the leaves as they fluttered in the soft breeze in the trees above me. It's a memory of delight and utter contentment. I was probably not 3 or 4 years old. My parents had taken me and my siblings on a weekend to the Missouri Hills, not far from St. Louis. That's where we lived before we moved to Metairie in 1952. Looking at the old photos, I saw there was a rustic-looking cabin, but I have no memory of that. What I remember is being outside in nature, surrounded by trees, and sitting in a beautiful rippling stream. For a city-dwelling child, this was the life, being away from city confinement and indoor captivity. I can look back now and see how I craved to be in nature since I was a child, but not really knowing what I craved. When my family moved to New Orleans, the highlights of the summer were trips to Pontchartrain Beach and swimming in the lake. There's something about being near and in the lake that is soothing and comforting. Ever since the pandemic, Vera and I have often escaped the house and driven out to the Bonneville boat launch where I walk our dog along the lakefront. Or we go around the big lake in City Park and enjoy the ducks, geese, bikers, swan boats, and the gondola occasionally floating by. We would often be surprised to discover what new flowers had been planted. Other times we just cruise along Lakeshore Drive, enjoy the lake breezes, seagulls, and sailboats. For me personally, I can look back at 30 years of being a member of the New Orleans Men's Circle. And one of the things that this group of men did is twice a year, spring and the fall, we went to a place in the Piney Woods, 80 miles north of here, and spent the whole weekend drumming, telling stories, poetry, being around a bonfire. Those were very restorative and continue to be so for me. For us as a couple, one of our special getaways is to the Highlands, North Carolina. My brother, Dan, and his wife, Nancy, have a condo on top of a mountain with a balcony that overlooks the pristine Nantahala forest. I especially like to sit there in the evening to watch the magnificent sunsets or to see the rain clouds moving swiftly in the distance. One evening, we were sitting at the dining room table playing a board game with the windows open to catch the breeze, when we noticed it became more and more misty. It took us a few minutes to realize that a cloud was passing through the house. At least once a day, I would walk the circular drive 3/4 of a mile around the top of Little Yellow Mountain and take in the 360-degree views from 4,500 feet. We were warned to be on alert for a mama bear and 2 cubs that live on the mountain and come out in the evening foraging for food. You can't leave food in your car, they'll get in. And the trash containers are bear-proofed. Last time we visited, my brother Dan and I were out walking and we saw a bear cub 60 yards ahead of us. We were chattering away, so the bear stood up on its hind feet, had a look at us. We had a look at it. It turned and headed the other way. We turned and headed the other way. Later, we saw the turf, his claws pulled up as he ran off. You wouldn't want to encounter those claws. Because of his time spent on that mountain, my brother has researched the wide variety of trees, plants, flowers, and shrubs there, and has written a wonderful summary for his neighbors. During the day, we would drive to one of the scenic spots, and there are many, and stand in awe of the majestic views or hike down a trail to see close-up of the scenic waterfalls nearby. One recent trip, we could only stay for 2 days because of the funeral of a dear friend. But that time in the forest and mountains is so important to us, we took the long trip there and back anyway. So does this make me seem like a nature nut, a tree hugger, or an escapist? I really don't care. What I've come gradually to know is that vacations to big cities, even wonderful, entertaining cities, are not relaxing and restorative for me. And while I deeply appreciate great art, there's something about the confinement of most museums that tires me quickly. So at NOMA, I'm more likely to head out to the sculpture garden. But that's enough about my personal preferences for relaxation and restorative vacations. What I want to share with you is that in recent research around the world supports the intuition that time spent in nature makes us healthier, happier, and more creative. I've told you about the book that inspired these reflections, The Nature Fix. About that book, BBC Wildlife writes, Williams makes a compelling argument for time outdoors. She takes a refreshing approach, including forest bathing, the Japanese custom of a sensory walk in the woods, ecotherapy in Scotland, and how nature can produce the same effects as mind-altering drugs. Their comment, thought-provoking and excellent. And of course, I told you about her own experience of moving from the mountains of Colorado to Washington, D.C., and how she discovered what she had lost and needed to find out about it. In other words, nature is our natural environment. But when we are cut off from it, we lose our vitality and capacity for creative growth. Much like flowers can maintain their beauty for a period of time if you cut them and bring them inside, but they certainly will not grow and eventually will wither and die. Well, we're not all going to move out of the city or suburbs, so what's the hope for us city dwellers? Knowing that most of us cannot be traveling hours for our nature fix on a regular basis, let's look around at what's nearby and reachable on any given day. Just recently, Thrillist named City Park in New Orleans as one of the 18 best city parks. With its many attractions, events, and open green spaces, City Park's 1,300 acres is a dream destination for anyone year-round. Now, some will object about the heat and humidity. It makes it unsuitable during the summer months. But I find if you go early in the morning or late in the afternoon, you can always find a shady place to walk, run, bike, or picnic. And of course, let's not forget the 11-acre sculpture garden. Over 80 incredible works of art are nestled among meandering footpaths, reflecting lagoons, and 200-year-old live oaks. I've already mentioned that trips to the lakefront can be very relaxing, but don't forget about Audubon Park, Lafreniere Park on a weekend, an excursion to Fontainebleau State Park, or Jean Lafitte National Historic Park. Now, many of you might have already found or created your personal nature retreat in your backyard garden or favorite spot in your neighborhood. I enjoyed reading in Saturday's paper about the soothing and comforting nature retreats that many gardeners have created for themselves. You can just tell from their description that gardening for them provides a welcome and relaxing way to de-stress and slow down from the rapid pace of modern life. One of the most relaxing summer activities for me is to go swimming in one of the outdoor pools at Elmwood Fitness Center. The immersion in water, the floating, the respite from summer heat is a welcome escape from the effects of global warming. I wish for the day when Lake Pontchartrain's water will be cleared of pollution and ready for swimming again, as it was in my childhood. The other daily activity that has great benefits is simply walking in a park or along a coastline. That's why the Bonneville Boat Launch is a regular for Vera and I. Walking the path right along the shores of Lake Pontchartrain provides a great excuse for walking our dog, Lexi, and it's very restorative for me. Recently, it was one of those days that it never seemed to stop raining, like yesterday. And I was feeling some cabin fever by 6 o'clock. The rain had let up, so we headed out to the boat launch, and I parked facing the setting sun. Within minutes, the clouds were turning colors of orange, mauve, purple, red. Nature once more surprised us with a feeling of awe that we never would have experienced had we stayed inside watching TV. I'll leave it to your imagination what other nature fixes you can find that are readily accessible. Now let's talk about how to fit nature immersion into your vacation plans. It doesn't have to be either or, going to city or national parks. It can be both and. Like the trip Vera and I took, we flew to Las Vegas, we saw Lion King and Celine Dion, and then went to Zion National Park and the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. We had a wonderful time, a delightful combination. We also had that trip to around the Seattle-Vancouver area, visiting Mount St. Helena and Mount Rainier, and then the beautiful scenery of British Columbia and Olympic National Park, while we also enjoyed some features of Seattle and Vancouver themselves. So when planning your next vacation, think about including some time in nature's restorative embrace. But even if you don't get outside, but you have a room with a view of nature, it makes a difference. One piece of research found that hospitalized patients with green views rather than a brick wall needed fewer post-operative days in the hospital, requested less pain medication, and were described as having better attitudes. Other researchers studied in a Chicago project the impact on those who shared the same levels of poverty, but some buildings were facing asphalt and concrete, and others had modest lawns dotted with trees. Those facing asphalt reported higher levels of psychological aggression, mild violence, and severe violence than their tree view counterparts. Using police reports analyzing 98 buildings researchers found a striking correlation between the level of greenery and the number of assaults, homicides, vehicle thefts, burglary, and arson. Buildings with the greenest views saw 48% fewer property crimes and 56% fewer violent crimes than buildings with the least greenery. They concluded it wasn't the greenery alone, but that those were more likely to come outside if they had greenery and meet their neighbors, socialize, and help each other. You know, it was some 155 years ago when Florence Nightingale wrote in her nursing textbook, "It is the unqualified result of all my experience with the sick that second only to their need for fresh air is their need for light." Oliver Sacks, the physician, reported that after being hospitalized, that when he could go outside, quote, "some essential connection and communion with nature was reestablished after the horrible isolation and alienation I had known. Some part of me came alive," unquote. As the incident of gun violence by young, alienated men continues to increase, I have to wonder about how our society is failing to give them the most basic connection to the web of life that's available in nature. Life lived virtually on a screen does not provide the necessary nurture, connection, and inspiration support that nature offers us all. Now, before I end this reflection, I'll mention some of the resources that point to the importance for all of us to connect with nature like our life depends on it, because the research shows it does. Here's a brief list. The Earth Prescription, Discovering the Healing Power of Nature by Laura Conover, MD. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Hall Kimmerer. Some of us are studying that book right now in our Wellspring group with Rev Stacy. The Secret Therapy of Trees, Harness the Healing Energy of Forest Bathing and Natural Landscapes by Menkali and Nieri. The Healing Power of Trees, Spiritual Journeys by Sherilyn Hidalgo. I'd also recommend the PBS series American Outdoors with Baratunde Thurston, the David Attenborough documentary Our Planet, and Barack Obama's Our National Parks, and lastly, the documentary Kiss the Ground. It is our seventh principle to have respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. What we are learning is that our health, happiness, and creativity are sustained by our frequent connections with nature, and that cut off from nature, like a branch cut off from a tree, we weaken, wither, and die. During the pandemic, when we have been isolated indoors, many of us have shared how their happiness and overall well-being was diminished. We need to nurture our connections to each other and to our Mother Earth that sustains us all. Of course, the earth cannot heal us if we continue to destroy it. But I hope for the healing of Mother Earth, like I saw in the documentary Kiss the Ground. The film points out how deserts created by pesticides and ignorant farming practices are being restored by incorporating steps that restore Dust Bowl dirt to healthy soil. It's amazing how quickly Mother Earth recovers when given the right conditions. So Mother Earth not only heals us, she heals herself if we know how to care for her. This Thanksgiving, our gratitude for all of Mother Earth's gifts and blessings can be perhaps best expressed by doing all we can to stop destroying the earth and spending time with her restorative and healing powers. So as I end, I had this image that came to me. You remember when they show you the food pyramid or triangle, and how you should eat? Well, I thought about our Earth connection triangle or pyramid. So at the bottom level is daily contact with the ground, trees, pets, plants, birds, daylight, fresh air, sunshine. Weekly, the next level, outings to parks, waterways, quiet gardens, peaceful places where we can hear nature's sounds. Monthly, next level up, excursion to forests, national parks, seashores for a full day of immersion. And then, top level, yearly, wilderness days, example in national parks, where you allow yourself a week or be extravagant, maybe even 2, in communion with Mother Nature. So I invite and encourage y'all to claim your Earth connection. 5 hours a month. Maybe I'll see you soon at the park.
Thank you, Jim. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give here today in person, but you can also give online at ccuunola.org/stewardship or by text at 504-370-2659. All you have to do is text GIVE to that number, and it will prompt you to do the rest. You can also send a check to CCUU at 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70124. Thank you. Please stand as you are willing and able for our offering hymn, number 59, Almond Trees Renewed in Bloom. That's hymn number 59.
Before our benediction, I'll mention that besides our Advent wreath, we hope to have a Christmas tree, and it has been our tradition during these weeks before Christmas that you can bring an ornament from your home that you'd like to temporarily have on the tree here, or we will be supplying some ornaments if you forget to bring one. Our benediction is number 524, Earth Mother, Star Mother. By Starhawk. Earth Mother, Star Mother, you who are called by 1,000 names, may all remember we are cells in your body and dance together. You are the grain and the loaf that sustains us each day. And as you are patient with our struggles to learn, so shall we be patient with ourselves and each other. We are radiant light and sacred dark, the balance. You are the embrace that heartens and the freedom beyond fear. Within you we are born, we grow, live and die. You bring us around the circle to rebirth. Within us you dance forever.
For our closing hymn, we're going to be singing hymn 173, hymn 173.
And now at the close of our service, I will extinguish the chalice here, but may it glow gently in your hearts. May its glow light your path as you leave this place and guide your way until we're together again. Thank you.